for Ukraine. Okay, April the 10th. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah. Okay, we're all set.
Can I keep the cameras back behind the podium, please?
Just give me the thumbs up when you guys are ready. You all set? Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone, on this brisk Sunday afternoon. On behalf of Minister Mulrooney, Minister Surma, Minister Cho, Associate Minister Cho, PA Martin, PA Key, and PA Thanagasalum, and Phil Verster, CEO of Metrolinx, I want to thank you for being here on this momentous day for the GTA. And it's my privilege to be joined by our government partners. Minister Algabra, that's the second time this week, so we're doing well together. And MP James Maloney, I love James because he's a Etobicoke boy. So thanks for coming by, James. And Mayor Tory, who's doing an incredible job for the people of Ontario, for Toronto, and has been a champion for this project from day one. And I want to send my very best to Minister Dominic LeBlanc, who couldn't be here today. I wish him a speedy recovery. He's been instrumental in getting us this far. Friends, our government has a plan for growing a stronger economy, an economy that works for everyone. It's a plan that's getting more people into skilled trades. It's a plan that will attract investment to create good jobs in our auto and manufacturing sectors. It's a plan that's connecting resources and industries in Northern Ontario to the future of clean steel and electric vehicles. And it's a plan that's building roads, bridges, highways, and expanding subways and public transit, all for a growing province. We're building Ontario. And today, we're delivering on our promise and getting shovels in the ground to begin construction on the new Ontario line. My friends, for decades, governments of every stripe have been talking about the need for new subways in the GTA. They've been studying it forever. There's been endless reports, endless committees, but finally, we're the government that got it done. Today, we're getting shovels in the ground on this once-in-a-lifetime project. First announced by our government in 2019, the Ontario line is the largest subway expansion in Canadian history. It will expand the current subway system in Toronto by a full 50%. When complete, the 16-kilometre Ontario line will travel from here at Ontario Place all the way to the Ontario Science Centre, connecting communities from east to west, north to south. The Ontario line will be an absolute game changer for this city, and we're moving forward with no delay, because we want to see an end to the overcrowded subway stations and subway cars. The new Ontario line will have 15 stations and connect to more than 40 other transit routes, including GO train lines, existing TTC, subway and streetcar lines, and the Eglinton Crosstown. My friends, we're building transit infrastructure, not just for today, but for the next 50 to 100 years. This is incredible news for the people and families who rely on public transit every day of their lives. And it's another way we're creating the conditions for good-paying jobs for workers as a major shot in the arm for our economy. Construction of the Ontario line is projected to generate up to $11 billion in economic benefits for the City of Toronto and the Greater Toronto Area, while supporting over 4,700 jobs per year over the next decade for hardworking women and men. That's why it's so important we attract and train more skilled workers. And it's why we're breaking down barriers for newcomers to work in the trades, while also investing in skills training and development. We need the women and men who will build the Ontario line, who will build the bridges, roads, and highways that will move our economy forward. We need the women and men who will build Ontario. Because time and time again, we heard that getting around this province was too hard, too slow, and took time away that families should be spending with the loved ones. Just like we did for the Bradford Bypass and Highway 413, our government listened and is delivering on the priorities of the people and families of this province. And I need to give a real shout out to our federal and municipal counterparts, because they've been true partners in this historic project. Like our government, they agree what matters most is bringing real help and real solutions to people. Nothing is more important than that. And today is another example of governments working together to deliver. So thank you for your ongoing partnership as we deliver the largest subway expansion in Canadian history to the people of Ontario. Our province has come so far, and we can't afford to go back to the politics of no. Instead, your government is saying yes. Yes to building new subways, yes to good jobs for our workers, and yes to investing in the future generations of this province. Friends, let's say yes to a better and brighter future that the people of Ontario deserve. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Now, I'll pass it over to the great Minister Alghabra. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Premier. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being out here on, as the Premier called it, a brisk day. Not that I'm against in-person announcement, but couldn't we have considered a Zoom announcement today? But I'm really, really honored and delighted to be here. It's great to be here as well alongside Minister Maroney, Minister Surma, Associate Minister Cho, other provincial colleagues, and Mayor Tory, and my friend and colleague, MP Jamie Maloney. We're here to celebrate this historic milestones for Toronto's public transit system. Premier, as you said, this is a second historic announcement in 1 week. This is great for the people of Ontario, great results for Canadians. Today's milestone is part of our $10 billion federal commitment to the people of Toronto in public transportation infrastructure. It's part of our almost $19 billion investment for the people of Ontario. It is part of our federal commitment to building infrastructure, part of our federal commitment to creating jobs and developing our economy, and part of our commitment to combating climate change. Premier, I don't know if you heard the news 2 weeks ago. I announced that our federal government is also investing in the studying, connecting Eglinton crosstown to the Pearson Airport. Also, 2 weeks ago, I announced on behalf of our government that we're advancing the investment of the high-frequency rail that connects Quebec to Toronto. Those are all real deliverable results for the people of Ontario, for the people of the GTA, for the people of Toronto, and it's a great, great pleasure to be able to help in advancing this project on behalf of the people of Ontario, on behalf of Canadians. Canadians are seeing that when all levels of government work together, we deliver real results for people. So I want to thank our partners in the Government of Ontario, our partners at the City of Toronto, and I want to thank my colleagues, the Liberal Caucus, who are members of the Toronto Caucus, members of the Greater Toronto Caucus, who have been championing investments in our infrastructure, in creating jobs, and in combating climate change. So once again, Premier, thank you very much. And now I'd like to invite my friend and colleague, Mayor John Tory, to the podium.
Well, friends, and I won't reintroduce all of the elected representatives that are here today, except to say that these are the days I think people look for us to produce for them, because we're elected to work for them and to get things done for them. And under the leadership of Premier Ford and Prime Minister Trudeau, there has been committed, together with the participation of the City of Toronto, $28 billion, an absolutely unprecedented amount of money to build up transit in this city and in this region. And it's going to help people from across the region. It's going to help them to get to work, to get to school, to get to see their families, to avoid traffic congestion. It's going to help the environment. This is an exciting project. The groundbreaking is an exciting step forward. And it's proof positive. You know, a lot of the times people see us announcing these things, but then they wonder when it's going to get built. And I've been with the Premier and with Raymond Cho, Caroline Mulroney, the Minister of Transportation, Kinga Surma, at an actual sinking of a shaft down to build the tunnel for the Scarborough subway, part of that unprecedented expansion to subway construction and to subway system, the subway system in the City of Toronto. Here we are today, actually breaking ground. And I want to pay tribute to Phil Verster. He's a public servant, and so he doesn't necessarily expect a lot of attention. He's just over here on these things, but he's a guy who knows that all of us, the Prime Minister, the Minister Omar Al-Gabra, Minister Mulroney, and the Premier and myself all want this transit to actually get built as soon as possible, and he's got the whip on him in that regard, but it's happening. It's happening. The construction is happening. And I think that reassures people that they actually see it happening, see the jobs getting created, see the transit getting built. Because the sooner you build it, of course, the sooner people are going to be able to ride on it. And it is going to make a huge difference. 28,000 cars will be able to be taken off the road as a result of this line alone. Thousands of people will use this station that will stand right here next to all the attractions of Ontario Place and the Exhibition Place and the soccer games and the football games and so on. And you will have as well something else that isn't talked about as much. Right now, there's a lot of pressure on Line 1. I still call it the Yonge Street Subway. This project by itself will reduce crowding at the Yonge Bloor interchange by 15% when it's concluded. And that is going to bring great relief to a lot of people who use the Yonge Street Subway, some from the 905, many from the 416. And yet again, it is an example of when governments work together, we can get things done that are going to boost the economy, that are going to create jobs, that are going to help the environment, that are going to help people get home to their families, that are going to reduce congestion on existing transit lines, that are going to encourage people to use public transit. Because the best antidote to traffic congestion is to encourage people to make it reliable, to make it affordable, to use public transit. And that is exactly what this project is going to do. It's a huge project, and I don't think people have even a complete understanding of how big it is, stretching all the way from what is North York and the Ontario Science Centre all the way down here to the very lakeshore of our great city. So I want to say thank you again. I haven't read any of my notes. There's a lot of good stuff in there. But I want to say thank you again to the Premier and to the Prime Minister and to the respective ministers who have provided the support to this expansion of Toronto Transit. You know, I think now is a time in the aftermath of this terrible pandemic where so many people have suffered, where so many people haven't had the opportunity to ride on public transit, which I think in many respects they actually wanted to do because they wanted to go back to work. They wanted to see their friends. They wanted to go to school and do all those things that a normal life provides for all of us. And now is the time to take the gains that we had achieved as a city and as a province before the pandemic happened, and to consolidate those gains, to get back at making the kind of progress that we have to make on jobs, on transit, on the environment. And this is going to be a project that is going to do that. It's going to help to take us forward. We're doing it, as you can see, together. And I will just tell you that the Government of Ontario and the Government of Canada, led by Prime Minister Trudeau and Premier Ford, are good partners for the City of Toronto in making sure that we have available the funding and the determination to get these things done so that we can get on with building a great city and a great province and a great country, which will continue to be, I'm sure, if we get back at that and consolidate our gains, it will continue to be the envy of the world. People will continue to want to come to live here because of the quality of life we've created, because of the opportunity, and transit's a big part of that. Thank you very much.
We'll now take questions from the media. If you could please form a line behind me at the microphone. We'll go one at a time, one question and one follow-up per reporter, please.
Hi.
Hi, Premier. Clary Feinstein from The Star.
Hi.
I just wanted to know for the completion date of the project, is it still 2030?
Well, the best person to talk about that is, and I got to give him another shout out, Phil Verster. You know, I got to tell the folks, so just go back to 1960. 1950 was before my time, but, and I'm not going to say a word. Okay, so 1950, what are you laughing at? 1950, 1960, there was, you know, if it wasn't for those visionaries, if it wasn't for the people that really stood up, and there was protests back then, can't be done. Imagine if we didn't have the young university line or the Bloor line. But this, again, goes back to what the mayor said and the minister. When everyone comes together and we have the vision, it's really unbelievable when you think, when all three levels of government in 2019, we got the planning done, we got the funding together, we got the shovels in the ground in 3 years. It's unheard of, and it all comes back to the collaboration, but it also comes back to the leadership of Phil Verster, leadership of Caroline Mulroney, and the infrastructure with Kinga Surma, and everyone's come together. You couldn't ask for anything better, and I'm so grateful for all their support. I'm going to hand it over to Phil Verster.
Thank you, Mr. Premier, but I didn't get the question. What was the question?
Will the completion date still be 2030?
So we have a practice whereby we have to go to the market, and the market would bid us times and schedules and prices. In the world we're in post-COVID, we're seeing huge variations in terms of what gets bid. So at this point, we're going to wait till the market closes. By the end of April, we're getting the first 2 or 3 of the commercial bids in for the South Civils part and for the railway systems part. And once we see those, we'll be able to judge when the completion date will be.
This time, we're not
So
sure.
this time, we're not declaring any new dates because it really is about what the market can deliver.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Hi, Premier.
Hi.
Brittany Rosen with Global News Toronto.
Hey, Brittany.
Hi. You know, a project of this magnitude is obviously expected to cause huge disruptions and congestion, especially in the downtown core. Can you paint us a picture of what the extent of that impact is going to be in Toronto? And is there a plan to support businesses that are really going to be feeling the brunt of this?
Well, I don't want to keep passing the buck, but this is their expertise. I'm going to ask Caroline to come up, and Phil Verster. They're the ones taking care of the project. So, Phil, maybe you want to have up here as well. Come on up, Caroline.
Well, thank you, Brittany, for the question. Obviously, major public transit projects of this size will have an impact on communities as we get through the construction. But I can tell you that our government is focused on working with Metrolinx to make sure that we do everything we can to minimize disruption in our communities. We'll be working with local community groups to make sure that we're communicating well, and also looking at how we can support businesses through construction.
Yeah, but if I can add to that, we've got sort of a four-pillar-based community benefits and support program, whereby our contractors are encouraged to recruit apprentices from the local community. We support businesses directly with regard to marketing campaigns and encourage our contractors to use the local businesses. And then the third pillar is where, as part of the build of the construction project, we return amenities and benefits to the communities through which we build. I'll give you an example. We've worked very closely through quite a lot of issues at the Leslieville and Riverside community. There are 4 parks which we are going to all increase the parks because we've changed our construction methodology. We're adding something like 2,600 square meters to those parks. Jimmy Simpson, for example, we're adding 700 square meters to Jimmy Simpson. So all of that has come from consultation with the communities, and that becomes our third pillar. And then the last pillar for our community benefits and community supports is one whereby if there are special requirements in different neighborhoods, we invest in those neighborhoods in a big way. And that's a policy decision which government take at that point in time. But if I give you just one example on that, in Thorncliffe Park, we've agreed with the Islamic Society of Toronto to build a new Islamic center, basically replacing a very small mosque that they've had. So we have a very, very strong focus on our communities and where we build. And Torontonians are passionate about their railways and are passionate about their city. And it's difficult to build within a developed city, but this is how we approach it.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to follow up with, projects like this, public transit projects, typically they take a long time and they often have cost overruns. Is your government prepared to deal with that?
Well, I'll tell you, one experience is the Eglinton West Line. They're actually 5 weeks ahead of time, and if these construction companies finish earlier, there's benefits. Am I not mistaken in that? So again, you're asking all technical questions. I'm going to hand it over to Phil. I apologize, but great news. When Phil's at the helm, they're usually on time and on budget, but I'll pass it back to Phil.
These projects, transit projects, are always extremely complicated and complex. This is just the nature of things. And so, yes, we focus very much on schedule, very much on cost, and the delivery is very often determined by the risks that we encounter. When we do that, we're very public about it, and we very much declare where we are. So that's the same way we'll continue into the future.
Hey, Premier.
How you doing?
Liam Casey with the Canadian Press.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Good.
There's been a lot of chatter about a daycare deal imminent with the feds. I'm just wondering if you're going to announce the deal tomorrow.
Well, what I can say is we've worked extremely well with the federal government, like every single other project, no matter if it was Windsor or this, and daycare is exactly this same situation. But I've said over and over again, 10.2 billion over 5 years won't give us the $10 a day daycare. But stay tuned, and we have a great deal with the federal government, and we'll announce it when time is right.
Okay. Is there anything holding it up on your end?
No, I think we're good. We work very closely with the federal government. They've been phenomenal partners, as they always have been, and we look forward to the announcement. Thank you. How you doing?
Hi, Premier. Beatrice Faisman, CP24.
Hey, Beatrice.
I want to circle back to my colleague's question about business impact. I know that the saying is short-term pain, long-term gain. We've seen a lot of businesses over at the Eglinton LRT being impacted, closing their doors because no one simply wants to climb over mud to get to their storefront. So what do you say as a business owner? What do you say to these business owners on Queen Street especially who are going to be impacted for years and years?
Well, I'll just repeat what Phil was saying. We've consulted with business owners up and down the line, and we're going to be there to support them and work with them and encourage people to go there, and we'll make it as easy and get this job done as quickly as possible. But you did mention something. It's going to benefit them in a huge way as we get through it. But in the meantime, we'll be there to support them any way we can. I understand, some of the issues they faced earlier on Eglinton. But we'll be there to help them out any way we can.
Maybe Mayor Tory, if you wouldn't mind,
Sure.
as someone who's very familiar with the pains of business owners on Eglinton.
Well, Beatrice, I think the first thing we've done is to be straight up with people. When you build a big project like this, one of the biggest of its kind probably in the history of North America, let alone Toronto, there's going to be disruption. And we simply have to get it built. For years, as the Premier said earlier, we've postponed these projects, just like we've postponed water mains. And water mains cause incredible disruption when we rebuild them. Some of them 120 years old, made out of wood. And so we've got to proceed forward with these things, but it is a subject of huge concern to me that we make sure that the continuity of the businesses, especially in places like Queen and Yonge, where we know the intersection is going to be closed for 3 or 4 years. It's actually quite unprecedented, totally closed. But we're going to work with those businesses. We're going to work with Metrolinx and the Government of Ontario to make sure that they do receive some support. In many respects, the best support we can offer to them is to make sure people know they're still open and make it easy for them to find a way to get there. And in the case of Queen and Yonge, for example, those businesses, the transit will still be operating. They will still be able to get there, and most people will get there by subway as opposed to by car, for example. But it is a subject of acute concern for me and for the City Council, and I know for the province and Metrolinx, and we will make sure we do better than we did on Eglinton. Eglinton went on for a long time. It was a different kind of project, but the bottom line is that we have to do better than that because while there will be benefits to business from these transit lines, at the same time you have to make sure they survive to see the benefits, and that's something that we're going to work on together very hard.
And Premier, let me try you once again on the issue of daycare as well. Have you signed on the dotted line for this deal, or is it kind of just waiting for the announcement? I know a lot of families are waiting to find out if they're going to get this $10 a day daycare deal.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, and again, thank you for the question. We've worked very well together with the federal government, and we'll announce it very shortly. But as I mentioned, 10.2 billion over 5 doesn't give us the $10 a day daycare. But stay tuned, and those same people that are going to be, going to daycare are going to be using these subways in a few years. The kids are going to be using those subways in a few years, getting their kids to school or back and forth to their job. And this is a great announcement about the subways today.
Last question.
Hi, Premier.
Hi.
I'm Talia Ricci with CBC News.
How you doing?
And I'm going to press you one more time on
Sure.
the daycare deal. I'm wondering if you're able to share any of the details on what you're getting from the federal government in the deal that differs from the other provinces.
Well, we worked very collaboratively with the federal government, worked well together, and we're always going to work well together. And I can say, stay tuned. I know everyone's anxious, but we worked well together, and it always turns out really, really good when all levels of government work together. And hopefully those children that are going to the daycare are going to be riding this subway right from Ontario Place up to the Ontario Science Center. They're going to be getting from point A to point B. The 4 subway lines are going to be 40 kilometers. It's really unheard of. And I want to give a shout out to the people working on the construction sites. There's some good-looking guys over there, tough as nails. They help out. Men and women that are working on the line, they never get any recognition. But no matter if it's freezing cold, boiling hot, rainy, snowy, the women and men are building the subway, so I'm very grateful for that. My last comment is go Team Canada. We got to get to the World Cup. So I wish them all the best, and I'm confident they're going to win today.
Are you going to follow it? Yeah. Okay. And in terms of the Ontario line, will everything still go forward full steam ahead, even if there's a change in government in June?
Well, I believe they're going to go ahead because I hope there is no change in government. He kind of, lobbed that into me. I can't help myself, but it was 15 years of decades of every political stripe. Not just the previous government, other governments as well, like decades. Matter of fact, I'll tell you a story. When I was down at City Hall with Rob, there was committees, there were talking points, there was this, that, and everything about a little downtown relief line, a few kilometers. With the leadership of Mayor Tory, leadership of the federal government, starting right from the top with Prime Minister Trudeau, and the province, and in 3 years, we're able to get the funding, to get the plans, and get the shovels in the ground. That's what happens when you work together. We're going to continue to get it done. The difference is other political parties in all different stripes, not just one, all different stripes, all they do is talk. We get it done with our partners, which I'm so grateful for. So thank you, everyone. Go Team Canada.
Thank you.
Thank you.